This is Rhea, and this is Just the Who of Us, where we talk about a range of topics, including life events, current events, spirituality, entertainment, family relationships, as well as answering listener questions and more. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to have you here.
Yes, thank you.
Today we have with us Katie Smetherman-Holmes, soon to be Katie Holmes, and uh, I'm really excited to have you here. We had such a great, kind of introductory conversation. We have a lot to talk about, and so I'm excited to have you here for your first of a few episodes. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. So glad to be back.
So we're going to spend a little time kind of getting to know you today, and we're going to talk about, first of all, what kind of led to Brand Studio Creative. Um, First, tell us a little bit about, before we get into what you do. I want to talk a little bit of kind of what led you here. You had this wonderful experience working for this employer who taught you so much, and so much so that you're like, you know what? I think I can do this. I got this on my own. Tell me a little bit about that journey from employee to business owner.
Absolutely. So, as you said, I was very fortunate that before I started Brand Studio Creative, I was working at another marketing agency in Houston, and I had worked there for 5 years, about 5 years. And I had a good relationship with the two owners. It was a very small marketing team. And so I was able to ask them a lot of like, not only, client related questions whenever it came to, pitching some of my designs and such, because I was the lead designer of their team. But I was able to ask them like business related questions and kind of peel back the curtain as far as like what it takes to run a business and what are some of the steps that maybe get overlooked, but you need to like put some more time in, or where are some areas where you can hire out, like how to actually like find good outsourcing team members that can, provide some of those areas where you may, need help or may be lacking in that kind of department. And so being able to not only grow in my personal design profession, and I worked with a ton of clients ranging from large corporate, multimillionaire type clients to also like very small mom and pop shop, shoe stores or something. So I had
Mhm.
a range of clientele that, my design career was definitely learning and expanding. But over those years, I was able to just ask really pointed questions, and they were always so open to be able to answer those questions. I think that's something also that really sets them apart is they not only took the time to, answer my questions, but like they would show me and they would walk me through like, hey, yeah, this is what we're working on. We're doing accounting today, and this is how we would write out some of the proposals. Or once we get an approved proposal, like how does it actually like go into action when it comes to, our marketing side of it? How do we actually implement it? And like things like that, where I know that not all business owners are willing to do. And I think especially the the smaller scale, you just have a little bit more time. You're a little bit more connected to your team members than say like a large, corporation. But
Right.
I was very fortunate in kind of that. And so um, once I felt like I, was at the point where I needed to spread my own wings a little bit, I still talked with them where it's like, hey, look, like I've always wanted to own my own business, and now I think it's the time to like start making those steps towards making that a reality instead of just a dream. And
Yeah.
so they were very supportive, and because my first step was like I want to get my master's and, actually get educated in some of the business side of it
Yeah.
um for brand strategy. And so that's where I went and I got my master's, and they were very supportive. And once I came back, they had contacted me, obviously being like, congratulations, we're so happy for you. But also like we would love to work with you again. Like we have some clients and you already know a ton of our existing retainer clients that like we don't have to like train you on that. And so
Right.
um they were supportive where they were like, we still, we want to support your dream and we're not asking you to like come be a part of the Bright Spot team full time, but we would love to contract with you. And so we have a really great partnership right now that
Yeah.
continues and yeah, and so again, I was very fortunate in that aspect because again, it really kind of not only helped build a foundation for myself, like in my mind and like the steps that I did to start my own business, but also when it came to the early days of starting my own business, like I already had someone that was very eager and excited to work and partner with me and do it on my company's terms and things. And so it's it's been really great.
That's amazing. Support makes a huge difference though in anything that we
Absolutely.
do. Yeah. So we mentioned this master's degree.
Hmm.
Um, let's talk a little bit about that experience because that a master's degree in Milan, Italy is like what that's
Yeah.
that's a big thing.
Yeah. Um, it's one of those that um, I'm very happy that I do have my master's. It was something that was always kind of percolating in the back of my head
Yes.
ever since growing up. But that whole experience, as because I've shared a little bit, but it was a whole like kind of bittersweet experience in itself. Like it was there were so many like highs, there was some really low lows in that entire year and experience, but it definitely has like shaped not only who I am, but also, what I do and practice in my business. So, as I mentioned, I always wanted to get my master's, but I wanted to get it outside of the United States. Like that was something that I personally always love to travel. I love learning and exploring different cultures and different parts of the world and listening to different languages. I'm not really great at speaking different languages. That's not a you know great point in my brain, but I do try. I will try, but my memory and my grammar, even in English, sometimes really struggle. So trying to learn grammar in a different language, it's just like a whole other hurdle.
All right.
But I do have such an appreciation for different languages. I love listening to them. I find them so fascinating.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
so I always wanted to go overseas. Like I always knew that I wanted to, and places in Europe kind of caught my eye. And so I found a program in Milan, Italy, at IED, the Istituto de Europeo de Design. Um, they they are, a creative type school. So they do a lot of different arts. They do a lot of like business sectors within the arts. So they do, like different like fashion or interior design, like different modes of design. So interior design, structural design, architectural design, graphic design. So it is of the arts, but they do have a good like business sector to it. So it's not just getting like another arts degree. And so my undergrad, since it was a arts degree, I was like, I want something that I think mine is technically a master's of science, is what they called it, but it is more business related. So it was taking the branding, but doing just the strategy part of it. And so I I was able to flex my, creative skills, but in a more business centered instead of just like a visual identity design kind of centered.
Yeah.
And so that was something that was really important to me because I wanted to be able to take that and apply it to my clientele so that they would be able to come to me and get like a full service design studio. So they would get not only the strategy, the graphic design, but also the website design and development. And so that brand strategy was just the missing piece that I kind of really needed. And so the program was a year long, And it was a very condensed, like year long, like it was a uh, full-time student. So it's not like a part-time, it was a full-time student, and it was a year-long program. And it was fantastic. Everybody in the class, it was an international class, so everybody in the class was from a
Nice.
different part of the world. And even if you were from the same country, you were not from the same city. And so I had one other American in the class, but she was from Boston, and I
Okay.
was from Texas. And then we had four people in the class that were from Italy, but they were from like literally the opposite ends of Italy, so they all have like different experiences. So everybody like we got really close in the class just in general because everybody was so excited to meet new people that we got really close in the class. This
Yeah.
happened to be the year that COVID happened. It was the year 2020. So my school started in January. COVID started about late February for us.
Mhm.
Kind of like percolations kind of started in mid-February, and then it kind of really blew out towards the end of February. And so Milan, as many people know, was the second hardest hit city in um, when COVID was starting to come about. And so we had very strict restrictions on us going out, us interacting with people, how we could go and get our groceries and everything. And so a lot of our class over the next few months, as we were like transitioning to being like telecommunication, we there was a lot of people who went back to their home just so that they could, be surrounded by loved ones since we all were um international, people
Yeah.
like that wasn't our home. And so I stayed until about June. And then early June, I just like I had enough and I needed to hug my mom. And so I came back home and stayed in the States for about a month and a half, which classes were still going on. So I would go to sleep early. I would wake up at about 2 a.m., sometimes like 1:45, depending on the class. I would wake up at 2 a.m. to make it to my morning classes. My morning classes would last until about maybe about 8 or 8:30.
Oh,
Then
wow.
I would lay down, go to sleep until about noon. And then I would wake up, do my homework, do my projects or whatever, talk with my classmates that were still awake at that time, and then rinse and repeat. And so my sleep schedule was wild in the summer
Right.
of that. Um, but I was passionate and I was dedicated, and so went back in about August. Um, was doing great. We were able to go back to our classrooms, even though, like we had strict, like separation kind of, you can never move the desks kind of, and, a lot of people had that back in the States
Yeah.
at that point. And so we always had to wear a mask, which a lot of people here, they complain about wearing a mask. Like, not a single person over there really complained. Like, yeah, in the early days, but like we were so much more concerned about our safety because the
Yeah.
hospitals were so full that like we could not risk getting sick or spreading it. So like everybody was
Yeah.
completely fine wearing a mask. And then we went back. We were working on our thesis at this point at the last half. And so our thesis was broken up into two parts. There were going to be two presentations. So we had a research centered part. So, like, we did all of our research for the first half of the presentation and gave all of our reasonings for everything. And then the second half was going to be the full brand strategy presentation for a company called Arnett. Arnett does eyewear. It's a very major eyewear, especially in Europe. And so we were working with them on their brand strategy. And um, I completed my first half of the presentation, then was calling home to, tell them about the success that we had. And then I got news that my mom died. So I had to rush back home
Gosh.
um, within the same time frame, rush back home. I took a month off of school which luckily, I was fortunate that the directors of the education department, like we were close. We worked with them like the whole program that was
Oh,
part of
that's great.
the curriculum. Yeah, like it was a very small class. It was like you worked with the directors. Everybody knew you by face, by name. And so when I told them her name is Elena Sacco, and she was fantastic. She was like, do what you need. If you need to divert it to another year, we're happy to work with you. But like, just tell us what you need and what you're comfortable with, and we'll be in touch. And so I
That's
stayed in
amazing.
touch, and within a month, of like heavy grieving, I was like, my mom would want me to finish. Like she was my biggest cheerleader. She was the one that was so excited on anything that I was doing. And so I was like, she would want me to finish. So I got to find some strength. I'll grieve again after, I graduate, but like I'm so close to the finish line that
Yeah.
I just need to do this. And so I did. I ended up, completing, graduating with honors, and then, took time off, like for real, like took time off. And I just stayed with my dad. I stayed at his house, and we were together a lot. And then about 6 months after was when I was like, okay, I'm gonna start taking steps to open Brand Studio Creative. And so um, I did those. And the early days of Brand Studio were baby steps, and that was completely okay. And it's something that
Yeah.
I suggest to anybody starting a business, like unless you have like the finances to kind of hit the ground running with a couple of team members, just like ready to go, like that's great for you, but not everybody has that, or
Yeah.
are in different parts of their life. And
Right.
so for me, even though I started Brand Studio 6 months after um, we buried my mother, I started it slowly and at my own pace. And, I got my team members at my own pace. And so it really kind of helped set the stage for how I continue to do business, where it's like life sometimes happens and it's okay to go at a slower pace. I know we have a hustle culture, but going
Yeah.
at a slower pace is sometimes what's needed. And
Yeah.
especially when it comes to developing a strong strategy, sometimes like you need that extra time to think critically on what your next steps should be. So that
Yeah.
was how I got my master's.
But I think that's phenomenal advice. Start unless you have the ability to take off with it, start at a pace that's comfortable for you. And that,
Hmm.
as someone who I have a commercial cleaning business that started 5 years ago, four,
Hmm.
4 years ago. And, we've had ups and downs, and
Hmm.
it's like my husband keeps reminding me like most things take 5 years to really get a solid footing,
Hmm.
and sometimes you just have to kind of take that and apply it,
Hmm.
apply it what best fits you and not what you think society or best fits society rather, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. Um, yeah, I'm coming up to my 5 years this upcoming April. Um, and I finally feel like I'm like getting the rhythm a little bit. Like when people say it really takes like 5 years to get that foundation, it
Yeah.
really does. And again, especially with life and the pace of the world, pace of society, pace of everybody's lives, like everybody's on a different path. And some people, it does go faster. And some people, they're like, the ebbs and flows, the waves are a bit greater. And so, you have to like, you can go fast, but then you have to take some time, and then you can go
Yeah.
fast again and then take some time. So, yes.
Yeah. I want to kind of move a little bit into what you do.
Hmm.
Um, and I want to ask you a question because I feel like this question is kind of the most important question when it comes to, okay, well, why would I hire someone to do this thing? I can create my own website, I can make a logo, I can, blah, blah, blah. I can do these little tiny things to kind of give my business a personality, right? But
Hmm.
why do I want to hire someone to do what you do?
Hmm.
What are your key performance indicators for measuring campaign success?
So the whole business strategy and plan is I want my clientele um, to be able to develop strong brands, websites, all driven by heart, purpose, and strategy. So you can't take the heart out of a business. You can't just make it, very financially driven, very, metric driven. Those are key pieces in building a brand and in building a successful brand and marketing strategy.
Yeah.
But it's not the whole picture. And so I think that some people they get caught up in some of those just like hard number details that they overlook a very key valuable piece, which is developing heart and putting your purpose into your brand strategy.
Mhm.
Most companies uh, work with other humans. Humans are connecting with other humans. So people in general, they always want to be able to connect to another person.
Yeah.
We don't really have many who are like, I really want to connect to just technology alone. That's, a very few subsect of people. And so because everybody is driven by their own heart and their own desires, their own purpose, whatever, motivates them to do their business, to do what steps they do in their life. Um, you have to take that into consideration when it comes to your brand strategy because your brand strategy is a little extension of who you are, even though it may be, a different extension, it's still a little bit extension of who you are as the owner. Like there's reasons why you started that business. And
Yeah.
so I like to really work with my clients in a much more casual type setting. I like to, sit down on the ground, sit down in the mud with them, like ask them like what their biggest challenges are, what's really, areas that they're struggling in, what is causing the most stress in them to
Mm,
get them to kind of be a bit more vulnerable as far as like where they're actually at in their business. And then I start talking about, okay, tell me, this was a figment of a little dream that you had, and now your business is being started. So tell me what was the dream that you had in starting this business? And that kind of gets them to open up about like the heart and the purpose and the mission behind that business. And so being able to tap into those two areas is where my business kind of really specializes. And so I take that heart and purpose, and then that's where I provide that outside lens to provide a good strategy for them to kind of work towards, to move towards, and everything. And so that's kind of what sets me apart in a little bit. How we kind of uh, like use metrics and use some of those like key performance things whenever we're kind of looking back at the success of the brand strategy in the business is how many clients are return clients because return clients shows that they have taken what your heart purpose mission is and
yeah.
they align with it. So that
Yeah.
means that you're really connecting with your target audience if they are repeat customers. Now, for, some service-based, customers like design customers or, photographers and stuff, it can be sometimes hard uh, to see some of those metrics for return clientele
Right.
because, like the spacing between projects might be a bit greater than, just a product-based kind of
Right.
customer. It's
Yeah.
really easy to kind of see like repeat clients with product-based customers, like see new releases or see, new artwork that's being produced, like things like that that people kind of are returning for. But if you have like somebody who comes back, even if it is, a few months or maybe a year in between, like that's somebody that has truly connected with you and wants to keep working with you. Um, One example that I have is the photographer that I use for my branded photo shoots, actually is my wedding photographer. That's how I met her. And I love her work. I love who she is, what she stands for, how she produces her photographs so much that I was like, do you ever do branded photo shoots? I know you're typically like a wedding and engagement photographer, but do you ever do branded photo shoots? And she was like, yes, absolutely. And I have used her multiple times. Give it again, there's a good, time frame in between just because photos take time to get produced and, doing photo shoots takes time. But
Right.
whenever I have like, oh, I need updated headshots or updated, reels or something, she's the person that I think of. And so finding ways that you have connections like that with
Yeah.
your clientele shows that how you're being vulnerable, how you're showing your heart, how you're showing your purpose um, in your brand strategy and social media and online presence shows that it's working. So metrics like those, not to take up too much time, but there's like the softer metrics that we kind of consolidate and pinpoint when it comes to seeing the success of a brand strategy. Yes, we do Google Analytics and some of those hard metrics, but um,
Mhm.
taking note of the softer ones in conjunction with those hard number metrics is how you get a full picture.
Yeah, for someone who, I own and operate two businesses, and one is, I mean, guess really both of them are very like, I need people to see what I'm doing and want to pay for what I'm doing, right? Whether
Yes.
it be the physical business of the cleaning business or the coaching and podcasting and other things that I do with the other business.
Hmm.
And I've been at a point throughout this 5 years to where I'm like, in my mind, I thought, okay, I just put the stuff out there and like people see it and then people
Hmm.
want it, right? Like, but
Right.
I can put this out on Facebook and people are gonna see it and I'm gonna, and it's like it's very like one dimensional thinking,
Hmm.
like as opposed to looking at this picture, like you have to advertise different places, but it's not about just the advertising when it
Hmm.
comes to your company. It's that you look at the whole
Hmm.
picture of the whole brand of this whole company and
Hmm.
say, okay, how can we like create and mold this thing with you? And I think that's something that was really interesting to me because it's not about just, okay, pay me to put you out there, like
Hmm.
you become
You want a design, here's a design, go share it.
right.
Yeah.
Here's your logo. Okay.
Hmm.
Like, it's about the holistic picture and that is something that really drew me to you in our conversation that really, because I don't do a lot of like promoting services or businesses. Like a lot of the people that come on and they're talking about their life experience or their area of expertise or, whatnot. So I don't
Hmm.
do I don't choose to have a lot of people come on where I'm kind of like promoting a service, if that makes sense, other than like therapy or something.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it was something that really like intrigued me because it really is about the whole picture with you. It's not
Hmm.
just, okay, this one aspect. And I think
Hmm.
that's great. And I think that when you're a business owner, you have to look at the whole picture, you know.
Hmm.
Say you're providing a service. Okay, it's not just and like I said, this is for me, like my own experience navigating being a business owner. It's not just about the service you're providing. It's
Hmm.
about what are the ethics of your business? What set me apart? Like I do this thing that other people do. Why would people want me to do that?
Hmm.
And I've gone through kind of like with the philology business, like I don't want to be a social media influencer, so I don't really like post a lot on social media. And then
Hmm.
it's like, okay, but where are people seeing your stuff? If you're not putting it out there, like
Right.
I have like the info from my website. I can see how many people viewed it, blah blah blah. But where are people hearing about things? So
Hmm.
not to say that you have to become an influencer, like phone following around all the time, but you have to present yourself as a person and as a
Mhm,
human and as an individual and as the owner of this business, especially when you're providing services like to the public or like um it is a holistic approach that you have to the business for the business to be successful. And
mhm,
so yeah, I just that really stood out. The holistic picture is important,
mhm.
and that's your focus is to cater to that and not just one individual aspect.
Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely a holistic approach because, one part is just one part. That's not the whole. And so you have to look at the whole to be able to really understand not only yourself, but also your business and your role in your business. And so I also like, I am not great at social media. Um, I tend to just get like distracted easily. So like posting is not, but the
Me too.
content is yeah, the content and me wanting to connect with people, like I would much rather like sit and have a conversation with somebody, or be like texting or calling, like having conversations. I love having conversations with people,
Right.
especially one-on-one conversations. Like they're just so juicy. I love it.
Right.
And so that's something that whenever I connect with somebody, I find ways to personally connect with them. Like I don't do just email submissions. Like if there is a client that comes to me and they only will talk with me through email, I'm like I don't like I want to connect with the person. And so if you're not willing to do that, like I just like that goes against my beliefs, that goes against my mission.
Yeah.
Um and so most of the people, like, they're very eager and excited to, hop on a call and um, discuss and brainstorm their projects, their dreams and everything. And so I'm very passionate about design. I absolutely love design and making things, and I'm a very creative person. So that's always going to be there, but being able to be that sound box, be that ear that I think a lot of business owners sometimes just need somebody to listen to. And that's another thing where it's very easy nowadays with technology and especially with like the rise of AI that like you can just kind of really do a lot of things yourself as a business owner, but it's something that I mention when it comes to a lot of my logo um, packages, my brand packages. I don't do just a logo. Like I don't have a package on my website that's just a logo because I don't believe that a logo or a business should live in a vacuum because you are out connecting with the world, connecting with people. You can't just build your company in a vacuum and expect it to be successful, especially be successful overnight.
Yes.
And so that's where my brand packages, like I do provide brand guidelines. Like there is more thought and process that goes into um, your brand than just a logo. And so, in that same vein, um, you shouldn't just create something like a business or, a company in a vacuum as well. Like have a sounding board, have a person who can be your ears that can maybe find loopholes or find areas where it's like, ooh, like we may be missing something here. Let's try to tweak it and make
Yeah.
it, hit our target audience a little bit better, like really touch their hearts, really captivate them in that kind of way. And so um half the time I'm sitting there just listening and I'm, reading and deciphering between the lines, which is, that's my job. That's what I'm really good at. Um, but I love just being able to sit and listen because once people kind of get a lot off their chest, um, a lot of stress gets released. And so I want to be that stress release where they don't have to worry about certain areas in their business. And so once you kind of take that approach, thinking holistically, like you really develop something much stronger and something that is going to capture your audience in a deeper way of just by yourself, just finding tools online, just doing, AI or ChatGPT, like whatever it may be. Um,
Yeah. Mhm.
there's just having an outside input is helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And it's on the topic of personability. Like I said, I'm going into I'm 5 years in on one of my businesses, and including the podcast and other things. I've this year I've really like changed certain strategies. And because I'm like, okay, well, I just put stuff. I wasn't doing reels. I wasn't really like putting myself out there. And
Mm,
also, the past couple of years, I've gone through a lot emotionally, and
yeah.
and there's perimenopause and there's all this, stuff. And so it's like it can really reflect in your work. And when
Hmm.
you are owning your own business and running your own business, sometimes we can't really afford for our emotions to reflect in our work in a negative manner.
Absolutely.
And having a support system who is also providing a service, because
Hmm.
you know we need help. Like, we need
Absolutely.
we need support as business owners, because especially small business. If talking about the people who just started on their own from scratch, we need support.
Mm-hmm.
Someone gave me advice not too long ago, and one of my business, we're 4 years in, and really didn't take off until like the third year, maybe close to the fourth year.
Hmm.
And they were like, hey, you should sit down and speak with so and so, the owner of this business, who is one of our clients, and really talk to them about business. Like,
Hmm.
because I know this person personally, and they started a business with like three people in a basement, and now it's a very lucrative business. So it's like, like utilizing that support system where you have it, whether it be even someone who is providing this service, because yes, you're providing a service for me, but if you're someone who actually cares about the success of my business, then you also can be a support person
Hmm.
in growing and developing together, and I just want to kind of hone in on that, because I think it's really important. I think it's important to care, care
Yeah,
about, the success of the business that you provide a service to. And that's not necessarily a common thing. So I
for
just think
sure.
to point out.
Yeah, for sure. Starting a business, just start a business and make money is is one way to do it. I tend to not work with those clientele just because once I start working with them, then they realize that, oh, like I don't have the heart in it, and then that means that the longevity is just not going to be as
Right.
great as it could be. And so
Right.
the ones that do have the heart but may not have like the infrasource or the financial stability yet, those ones they have so much heart, and I can see the longevity in their clientele or in their business.
Yep.
Um, and so those people I absolutely love to work with. And a lot of them are like female entrepreneurs or small business owners. And um, one thing that, especially with, I think this year has been hard on a lot of people, especially with how things are kind of changing and fluctuating. And as my husband and I say, life be lifing sometimes, and
Girl.
it's hard. And,
Yeah.
again, like trying to not bring that into maybe your work or, especially as a small business owner where, so much of yourself is in your work, trying to
Yeah.
separate that can be a challenge. And so I agree, like being able to find your support, your network of people, whether it is, through the digital space, whether you find online communities, or if you go to, in-person networking or business networking events that are in your area so that you can get one-on-one support, face to face.
Yes.
Definitely find those because I've noticed that this is something that I have been, for a select few, offering for some clientele is a barter type system. So if somebody comes to me, they're like, I absolutely would love to work with you. Is there, either like workbooks or things that I could take on my own, to like help with some of those costs, but also is there something of my services that I can maybe provide you and we can maybe find like a happy medium or something. And so um
Uh,
I think that's something that, especially in today's kind of economic climate, is scary to ask or even offer that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but also, I think that especially when it comes to small business owners, who are going through like similar things, like trying to start out, trying to get their foundation right, but they may not have the, financial resources or investment backing or, so to speak. They, it's a scary thing to ask, but I think a lot more are willing,
yeah,
if you find like the right people and the right support and, find people that you truly connect with, and that you truly, you know, uh, are inspired by, are wanting to work with them, but don't, have the way forward.
yeah,
Ask it or offer it, or be like, hey, like this is something that I would be willing to help with your business if you're interested. Open it in that way where it's like, I would love to work with you, but I don't have the financial resources yet. Here's what I can offer you. Are you willing to, is there some kind of trade or barter that would could happen? And so, again, I've done it with a few clients this year and it's really like paid off. And again, like um, the retention off of that metric alone has been greater than, um, you know, forcing them to fork over money that they don't have. And
right.
so,
Yeah,
because uh, in that regard, um, jumping back to an earlier thing that we had mentioned and touched on, referrals are also a great metric
yes,
where
yeah,
if somebody may not have the financial means to, um, be a repeat client, or maybe just like the project, what it was kind of like an encapsulated type project, like it really is just this. Um, Referrals are a great way to see, you know, that kind of softer metric where it's like somebody was so excited and happy to work with me that they're willing to share with others, and
yeah,
that person also like contact like is
yeah.
fantastic. It makes me think of, I don't know the real statistic, but this was a statistic that was told during my master's program from one of the directors. Um, he asked the class, how many uh, for a company that you liked, or say like a restaurant that you liked, how many people are you probably going to share you know, that love with? And
Yeah.
people are like, oh, like probably like a lot. Like you're gonna share it with a lot of people. And he was like, no, the statistic is five. You're gonna share it to five people. He was like, okay, now take that same statistic on something that you didn't like, that you didn't connect with, or that you had a bad experience with. How many people are you gonna share? And then people started thinking about it, and they were like, oh, and he was like, you're gonna tell a hell of a lot more people, right? And
Right.
so if you can get on the right side of that statistic, the people that you are going to be referring to are going to be not only people that have already been vetted by that person that's doing the referring, like they're like, oh, like I already know this person is a good person. I want to
Yeah.
refer them to another good person to potentially work together. That means that vetting system has already happened. And so it's a higher percentage that you would be able to work with that person than if somebody who, says a negative thing about you, then it's going
Yeah.
to spread like wildfire and it's going to be hard to rein that in.
Yeah. I think the average uh 1 star like the average bad review can cancel out like 15 to 20 good reviews or something like that. And
Hmm.
so and it does like it makes sense because if
Hmm.
if you tell somebody something negative about something that's going to stand out in their head. They're going to remember that about that person. But you can tell
Hmm.
them multiple good things about something. And
Right.
most
Oh, that's
people,
great.
not
And
everybody, but
then,
most people, yeah, and it's like you just move along and,
right.
like, oh, okay, cool. But I wanted to point out too, like the bartering system, it's something that it actually does work because I did this recently in one of my businesses and actually twice. One service for service. One was with the cleaning business because I needed somebody to come and do like a lot of yard work.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't trying to put out three, four, $500. And so I was like, hey, I'm willing to trade services and immediately and he did a phenomenal job. And I'm like,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, like, am I going to
Yeah.
live up to this? Because wow, and like we're happy to do it. And then, with outside of physical services too, I've done it with coaching,
Hmm.
trade coaching for parenting coaching for personal development, kind of thing. And that's
Hmm.
been great too. So, whether it's your kind of okay, well, I'm not really sure if this service is going to benefit me, before I put that money into it or whatever the case may be, or like I'm
Right.
going through a really rough time, but I really believe in this. It is really a great, and it is a possible, like,
Mm.
people do it.
For sure. It's definitely something like, don't just do it willy-nilly. Like, definitely,
Right, right,
you know, have your set intentions. Make sure that like it's people that you want to work with, that you want to
right.
build a relationship with, because that's ultimately like the goal of a bartering is like you're trying to build a relationship, you're trying to, share networks or build
Yeah,
your network and, making sure that you, you know, hold yourself accountable to whatever you provide, but also you're trying to,
right.
connect with somebody who's going to also hold themselves accountable. So like definitely, like I said, like it's only for a uh certain clientele that have like come to me and again like I was like, oh yeah, like some of our things could overlap where it's like I'm struggling in this but you do this really well, um and vice
Right.
versa. And so they were like, I can't get a graphic to save my life, I need your help. And I'm like, that's something that I can do in my sleep, like absolutely. And so um yeah, finding those people um is definitely worth it. And I think it's definitely like worth the investment in the time and the
Yeah,
mental energy because again, like you never know where a lead can take you. And, the more positive and like trying to work with people that you can be right now,
yeah,
um, the better off that percentage is going to be.
absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, unfortunately, we are running out of time, but is there anything else that you would like to cover or um, ask or mention before we wrap up?
Yeah. I think if you're wanting to like start a business, just start. All it takes is a first step. You don't have to think 10 steps ahead. Like start with the first, maybe two.
Yeah,
And see where it goes from there. Don't think that you also have to start, guns ablazing, like everything, works perfectly from the get-go. No, like taking small steps, taking, steps at a time and a pace that works for you is still steps forward. And so don't be scared of taking those if you have something that like you're called or you feel it like in your gut and in your bones where you're like, I would love to do this. Like I feel my purpose is this, but I don't know how to get started. There's always going to be people around who are willing to help you get started. Me
yeah,
being one of them, like I love, the diamond in the rough and the underdog story. Like I absolutely love those and am happy to kind of help. And so finding your support system um should be kind of like one of those first steps because once you find that support system, you'll be baffled by how quickly your business can really take off. And
yeah,
so I do have 3 books that are currently out that kind of, highlight different parts of my journey as an entrepreneur on my website for purchase. But I'm always happy to connect and brainstorm or be an ear for any kind of business owner.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to having you back. Thank you for your not only your conversation, but the things that you emphasized are really important to small business owners, people starting out or people a little bit in who are kind of struggling to like, I can't seem to exactly get to where I want to be.
Yeah,
I really value your information, and I hope that it helps a lot of people who are listening.
thank you. Thank you so much. It was a joy being here and chatting with you.
You're welcome. All right, see you soon.
See you soon.
This is Rhea, and this is Just the Who of Us, where we talk about a range of topics, including life events, current events, spirituality, entertainment, family relationships, as well as answering listener questions and more.